saying later that we don't know what's going on. Okay, so a cylinder, when you picture a cylinder, picture like a can of something, like a can of beans or a can of SpaghettiOs or just a can. So we have cylinders. How we're working with those, it's very similar. The surface area formula is actually the exact same. But because for a cylinder your base is a circle, or your bases are circles, then there's a different way you can write that surface area formula, which we'll get to. So to fill in some vocab for cylinders, cylinders have what's called an axis. So the axis of a cylinder is the segment with endpoints that are centers of the bases. And your bases are circles in a cylinder. And so it shows two different cylinders down below, so you can see the center points of each base, the segment that connects them, that's the axis they're referring to. So if the axis is also an altitude, so it's perpendicular to the bases, the cylinder is a right cylinder. And then if the axis is not an altitude, then it is an oblique cylinder. And again, I think I mentioned this yesterday with the prisms. All of the problems you'll have, you can assume that they are right cylinders or right prisms, unless if the problem tells you specifically it's not, then you know it's not. So the problem would tell you if it isn't. Otherwise, even if a 90-degree angle isn't drawn in, you can assume that it is. So then down below, so lateral area for a cylinder, it is the area of the curved surface. So for a prism, it was the area of the sides all added together. Here, your sides are really that curved piece, so it's that area. So if you, or they show the net for a cylinder right here. So here's the two bases, and then it's like this is being unwrapped. So notice the net of the curved surface actually does form a rectangle. So the lateral area is still the area of that rectangle. And like I said, the lateral area, surface area formulas are the same. So I just want to show you though with bases being a circle. So lateral area from yesterday was the perimeter of the base multiplied by the height of the figure. That is still the case. But because the, let me just write this here. P was the perimeter of a base, or perimeter of base. Because your base is a circle, what do we call the perimeter of a circle? The circumference. So the perimeter of a base here is the circumference. So they do show that here circumference is 2 times pi times the radius, 2 pi r. So that means the length of that rectangle, if you look at the net, that length is actually the circumference, and then your height is h. So you might see lateral area written differently. You could write it as c times h for circumference times height. But since circumference is 2 times pi times the radius, you might see it written as 2 pi r times h for the lateral area. So as we get into surface area then, so surface area, just like for a prism, it's the lateral area plus the area of the two bases. So same formula we saw yesterday, you'll see instead of writing P times H, you can write 2 pi R times H for the reason I just explained. That's your lateral area. And then for 2 times the area of a base, remember capital B is the area of a base. Notice you could also write that this way. Area of a base is pi r squared since your base is a circle. So if you wanted to make that note, area of a circle is pi r squared, and that's why they're writing pi r squared there. So to fill in your variables again, I know I just referenced these. P was the perimeter of base, which is the circumference, since we have a circle. And just to review, so circumference is 2 pi r. What's another formula for circumference? Yep, pi times diameter. And then h is the height of the cylinder in this case, height of the figure in general. B is the area of a base, which again for circles today, since your base is a circle, is pi r squared. Okay, but otherwise the general formula is the same. And we'll just put that to use with some examples. So in example 1, we have a cylinder. It's on its side right now. So your bases are always the circles. And this one just says to find the surface area, but from yesterday, and you can see from the formula to find the surface area, you do need the lateral area also. So how I'm going to organize this, similar to how I did yesterday, I'm going to find the perimeter of the base, but I'm just going to label that C for circumference. I'm also going to show you, because I've referenced this before, and I know we don't always do this, I try to not round anything until my final answer. So if you are rounding something in the middle, just make sure you're writing that down so I can see where you're getting your answer, because your answer then might be slightly different from what I have in the end. So I'll show you how I usually type these in. So circumference, since for this base I have 15, which is the, I know it's pointing here, 15 is assumed to be the diameter since the entire thing is drawn in. So the diameter is 15. So I'm going to use the pi times diameter equation for circumference, meaning my circumference is 15 pi. And this is what I mean. I'm going to leave this as 15 pi. I'm not going to round to get a decimal until my final answer. So I'm going to leave that. Then I have my height of my cylinder would be the 18. So it's on its side, but how long the cylinder is the height, so 18. And this means it doesn't ask me for this, but if I needed to find the lateral area, these get multiplied. So I would have 15 pi times 18. And to keep things exact for right now, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to multiply the 15 and the 18, which is 270, and then just keep the pi with it. Now, if it did ask you specifically for lateral area as its own answer, you definitely could multiply that by pi. Use the pi button, not 3.14, but you could multiply that by pi to get a decimal if that was asked as its own question. So I'm going to leave that for now. I have 270 pi. And then I also need the area of a base. And that is pi times the radius squared. So what would the radius be? 7.5. So I would have pi times 7.5 squared, which I'm just going to square 7.5, so that's 56.25 times pi. So now when I'm finding surface area, I know that it's my lateral area, so the 270 times pi plus 2 times the area of one base. So that would be 2 times the 56.25 pi. And now I'm going to type this all in and then round to at least one decimal place for my final answer. And I would just make sure, bless you, that whatever calculator you have, you can type it in to get the right answer. So if I do 270 times pi plus 2 times 56.25 times pi, enter. Then now if I round this, I have 1,201.7 if I round to one decimal place. and that would be millimeters squared. So your answer is best if you don't round until the very end. But like I said, if you do round, like if you rounded for the 270 times pi, at least, again, always show me how you're getting your answer. So if you're a little bit off, it's probably okay, but I'd like to see how you got that. Okay, questions on that one? Okay, so let's just go through another example. Now, these ones do ask you separately for lateral and surface area, so you'll have a rounded answer for both. It does say to round to the nearest tenth. So we have the radius is 13, that's r, and then our height is 8. So again, I need the perimeter of a base, so that's the circumference, which this would be 2 times pi times r, so 2 pi times 13. Again, I'm not going to round this part. I'm just going to do 2 times 13 is 26. So this would be 26 pi. And then my height is 8. So my lateral area is those two multiplied together, 26 pi times 8. And because I'm giving this as an answer, if you have this rounded, it's okay. What I'm actually going to do, I'm going to do 26 times 8. So the exact answer would be 208 pi. And then if I actually multiply 208 by pi, 653.5 approximately is the rounded, and that would be yards squared. So this is an approximation. Now the reason I wrote both is because I could use the exact, when I'm finding the surface area, I could use the exact so that my surface area is also more accurate. So for surface area, I need the area of a base. And I already have the radius is 13, so that would be pi times 13 squared. And if I square 13, that's 169, so 169 pi. So like I said, when I find my surface area, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go back to my lateral area, but put in the exact. So I have 208 pi plus 2 times the area of a base, so 169 pi. And that way, when this is rounded, it's more exact than if I had plugged in the decimal. So I have 208 times pi plus 2 times 169 times pi. So approximately 1,715.3. And that is also square yards. Okay, so any questions? If you felt okay with yesterday, it's the same formula, you just have circles. So for perimeter, you're using circumference, and then you have the area formula for a circle. So I'd like you to go ahead and answer number 3. Find the lateral and surface area for that cylinder. Yeah, it it'll give you